Welcome to Deep Cuff Channel. Russia's bubble is about to burst. Ukrainian army can raise its banner to the sky. Ukrainian army defeated the Russian troops on all fronts. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made important statements. Explosion sounds are heard again from Russia's critical Ingles 2 air base. Wagner Group continues to lose in Ukraine. What is Russia's new war strategy? There is important news from the Russian troops on the territory of Belarus. Russian economy is on the verge of collapse. If the Ukrainian army advances like this, we may see the war over in the coming summer months. Latest news from the Balkan lands shows that the tension in the region is increasing like never before. Russia took action to prevent the advance of the Ukrainian army at the front. Accordingly, Russia attempted 19 attacks against the Ukrainian army using multi-barreled rocket launch systems and artillery units. In addition to these attacks, Russia is trying to increase its threat on the Ukrainian army by effectively using warplanes in the region. Ukrainian army, which successfully repelled almost all of these attacks, caused great damage to the Russians with the attacks it launched afterwards. Accordingly, while Ukrainian rocket and artillery systems hit 6 Russian-controlled areas, the Ukrainian Air Force, which supported the attack, destroyed an important Russian command center. Attacks carried out by the Ukrainian army include areas such as Luhansk, Novoselivsk and Stelmakivka. While these attacks on Ukrainian territory continued, explosions were heard again from the Ingles 2 air base, which is located within the administrative borders of Russia. This base was attacked by Ukrainian drones at noon yesterday. When we arrived this morning, we were told that the weather alarms at this base had been reactivated. Reason for the alarms may be Ukrainian drones or missiles. This base is extremely important to Russia as it hosts a large number of strategic bombers used by Russia in its attacks across Ukraine. It is reported that at the moment, Russian air defense systems in the region are working in accordance with their purpose. After the events at the Ingles 2 base, Russia tried to mobilize its troops in the Luhansk region. According to the head of the military administration of the Luhansk region, Serhiy Haidai, Russia targeted the Ukrainian army in its operations in this region. Russia, which attacked at night, attempted 44 attacks in 16 regions using its missile and artillery systems. While most of these Russian attacks were prevented by the Ukrainian Defense Forces, the Ukrainian army, which started the operation after the attack, began to crush the Russian troops. Accordingly, Russia lost 620 soldiers, 7 armored combat vehicles, and 5 special armored vehicles as a result of the attacks carried out by the Ukrainian army. It is possible to see that the Russian losses have reached great proportions. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar said that the Russian army wants to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk by the end of this year. Minutes after Maliar's statements, explosions started to come from the Donetsk region. However, these explosions occurred as a result of the attacks carried out by the Ukrainian army. According to news from the region, Ukrainian artillery units carried out organized attacks with 7 artillery systems within 15 minutes. There is currently no information about the loss of Russians in the attack, but the soldiers of the Wagner Group in the region are trying to prevent these attacks by using Pantsir systems. Commander of the Wagner unit of the Pantsir S-1 air defense system told how his soldiers used this weapon during the war in Ukraine. Pantsir system is an air defense system that has been in service in the Russian army for many years, but is not very modern. While this system is especially effective against unmanned aerial vehicles, it is said to hinder the capabilities of missile and artillery systems. However, the Ukrainian army was able to gain a great advantage against these systems by using unmanned aerial vehicles, such as Bayraktar TB2. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin's new war strategy has emerged. Russia has been preparing for an attack from the region by sending weapons and ammunition to Belarusian territory for a long time. So far, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko also does not deny this. According to the latest statement from the Institute for War Studies, an independent think tank. The exercise is carried out on the territory of Belarus, and the preparations made in the region clearly show the center of Russia's new attack on Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Institute for War Studies has found that the Russian army is much more clearly preparing the ground for a new offensive in northwestern Luhansk Oblast. Ukrainian General Staff reported that just before the new year, Russia increased the volume of trains carrying personnel, military equipment and ammunition to the battlefields. Geolocated footage also showed a train full of Russian tanks heading towards Luhansk Oblast, and ISW had previously observed Russian forces transporting elite airborne troops from Kherson and Kharkiv to the area. Russian leader Vladimir Putin may try any means to regain his political and military authority lost in the war. Among these news, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also made important statements. Russian Foreign Minister, who blames Ukraine and the West for the war, said Kiev should either accept Moscow's demands to end the war or watch the Russian armed forces win them on the battlefield. Late on Monday, Sergei Lavrov's remarks came a day after Russian President Vladimir Putin said he was open to negotiations amid ongoing fierce fighting in eastern Ukraine. Ukraine, which received great support from other NATO countries, especially the USA, is gaining a serious victory against the Russian army. Therefore, it is quite normal for the Russian authorities to be uncomfortable with this situation. Because this war is the biggest conflict between Moscow and the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Another aspect of Lavrov's statements is the attacks of the Ukrainian army on the Engels 2 base. Russia attaches great importance to the bombers at this base and is doing everything in its power to use them. Also, according to recent reports, in 2023, the Russian Air and Space Force plans to replenish its inventory with modernized bombers. Russian Lieutenant General Sergei Kubalash announced that the systems that need to be modernized will be the Tu-95 and the Tu-22. Kubalash said modernization is currently underway and is progressing according to plan. Russia pays attention to bombers. Just a few days ago, we reported the first test flight of the T-160 million, an all-Russian bomber built from the ground up. Russia thinks that these systems will be a serious power multiplier in the event of a possible war outside of Ukraine. But the main problem here, the Russian economy. Many economic analysts think that the bubble of the Russian economy will burst soon. Despite the damage it suffered in the war, Russia does not seem to have given up on replenishing its defense inventory. However, the attack that Russia plans to carry out next spring seems to show the outcome of everything. Finally, there is important news from the Balkan lands. Serbia and Kosovo put their armies on high alert. Serbian Defense Minister Milos Vucevic said the Serbian army was placed on high alert on Monday. According to Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić, the reason for such a decision is allegedly because Kosovo has escalated tensions in the border areas. In response, Kosovo placed its security forces on maximum alert. This area also needs to be monitored. We will continue to monitor the world and especially Ukraine. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.